Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to teach you what to do in factoring trinomials where a is not 1. So that's when your number in front of x squared is not actually, it's 1. It's not 1. It's something bigger than 1. So you've got to do something a little bit different in order to factor these types of problems. Okay, so the first thing you always want to do is still check for a GCF. Now, the smallest number that I have in this first trinomial is 1, so that means I can't actually take out a GCF. So I'm going to do something a little bit differently. Okay, so we're still going to use the big X method, but there's going to be two very tiny changes in order for us to do something called split the middle. Okay, so I'm going to start by making my big X. Now, in trinomials with a equals 1, you always put the coefficient, or sorry, the c value up in the top, right? Well, the reason why you just put the c value on top is because this a value was always 1, and 1 times the c value just gave you the c value. Well, it's a little bit different here because your a values are not going to be 1. So what you need to do is multiply the 2 times the 1 and put it up here in the top of your big X. Okay, now the bottom stays the same though. It's still the b value. So here's the general format for big X when a is not 1. You do a times c and put that in the top, and your b value always goes in the bottom. Okay, all right, so let's work that out. The only factors of 2 are 1 and 2, so I know that's what I'm going to use, and 1 plus 2 makes 3. Now, here's the second big difference. This method is called split the middle because we are literally going to take the middle term and split it into two terms that add to it. So here's how that looks. First, the 2x squared stays exactly the same. Then I'm going to take this 3x and I'm going to split it into two terms. And I'm going to use the numbers that I just found in my big X. So I'm going to have 1x, so positive 1x. And then the second term here is going to be positive 2x. And the reason I can do that is because when I add those together, when I combine those like terms, they equal the 3x. So I haven't changed the value of this trinomial. I've just made it less simple. I've made it more complicated. And then the last thing I'm going to do is take this positive 1 and bring it on down. Now you should notice that we have 4 terms. And you already know how to factor something with 4 terms. You use the grouping method. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to put these two terms together and these two terms together, okay? And then we're going to factor out the GCFs for each pair. 2 and 1 only have one number in common. It is 1, but they do both have an x. So I'm going to keep an x. So I have 1x, and then I'm going to divide. 2 times 1, or sorry, 2 divided by 1 is 2. X to the second over x is just x. 1 divided by 1 is 1, and the x's cancel because they equal 1. Close your parentheses. Now the GCF, once again here, has to be 1, so I'm going to put a plus 1. And then when I divide that out, I'm just going to get the same thing back. So that's 2x plus 1. My parentheses match, so I know I've done it correctly. So my answer ends up being 2x plus 1 times 1x plus 1. Let's try another. Once again, 2 is my leading coefficient, which is not 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is see if there's a GCF. The only factors of 2 are 1 and 2 does not go into 5. So I know there's not a GCF. So let's make our big X. I multiply a and c to get 4 in the top, and 5 comes down to the bottom. Now, the only factors of 4 are 1 and 4, 2 and 2. And 1 and 4 is the one that's going to give me 5, so that's what I'm going to use. Keep the first term the same, so 2y squared, and split the middle using what you just got from your big X. So that's plus 1y and plus 4y, and then bring this 2 down as well. Now let's group. The GCF here is just going to be 1y. And when I divide, 2 divided by 1 is 2. Y squared over y is just y. 1 divided by 1 is 1. The y's cancel. The GCF here is 2. So I'm going to take out a 2, put down a plus 2, and then 4 divided by 2 is 2. Y, 2 divided by 2 is 1. My parentheses match once again, so I can write my answer as 2y plus 1, so that's my matching parentheses, and 1y plus 2, which are my two GCFs. All right, let's try one more like this, and then we will take a look at a couple more on the next page. Okay, once again, 3 is my leading coefficient, so that's not 1. And there's an invisible 1 here, which is my smallest number, which means there can't be a GCF either. So make your big X. 3 times -4 is -12, and then -1 goes down here at the bottom. Now I know that 3 times 4 is 12, and if I make the 4 negative, it will add to -1. So those are the two numbers I'm going to use for my coefficients. The 3x squared stays the same. Then I have a positive 3x, a negative 4x, and then minus 4 at the end. So let's group. Okay, my GCF here is 3x. And when I divide, 3 divided by 3 is 1. X squared divided by x is just x. 3 divided by 3 is 1 again. X's cancel. Now remember, when your GCF when the leading coefficient in the first spot in the parentheses is negative, your GCF must also be negative. And the GCF of 4 and 4 is 4. So I'm going to bring down a -4, and I'm going to get -4 divided by -4, which is 1x, and then -4 divided by -4 is a positive 1. My parentheses match, so I'm going to get 1x plus 1 times 3x minus 4. And I want you to try this one here. If you want to see the answer, check out the key on Canvas. But we're going to do 2 more together on the next page. And if you notice up at the top, it says always check for a GCF first. So guess what, guys? There's probably going to be a GCF. So take a look. 4 is the smallest of my numbers. The factors of 4 are 1 and 4, 2 and 2. Now 4 doesn't go into 14, but 2 does. And 2 also goes into 6. So the first thing I'm going to do is take out that 2. Okay? And I'm going to drop it way down here at the bottom. So I'm going to get 2x squared minus 7x plus 3. A is still not 1 here, which means I'm going to have to split the middle. Start with your big X. 2 times 3 is 6, and I put -7 down here at the bottom. I know that what's going to work is -6 and -1, so let's split the middle. 2x squared stays the same, minus 6x, minus 1x, plus 3. Then let's group. Divide by 2x here, because that's the GCF of 2x squared and 6x. So I'm going to bring that on down. And when I divide, I'm going to get 1x minus 3, because the x's cancel. Then over here, my GCF is -1. So I get x minus 3, 1x minus 3. So my parentheses match. So my final answer is 1x minus 3 times 2x minus 1. And that's my final answer. Now you got to remember that you have to have that GCF out in front or your answer is not entirely correct. So you might say, well, what if I don't notice that there's a GCF right at the beginning? How can I double check my answer at the end? It's actually pretty simple. Let's see how this would work. So here, if I don't check for a GCF, first of all, I'm going to get a pretty big number up at the top, but that's okay. So 9 times 30 is 180. Nope, 270. Math is hard. 9 times 3 is 27. Add the 0 at the end, so 270. And then -33 down here at the bottom. So let's find all those factors of 270, which is a lot, which for my class would be a big hint that you probably missed a GCF, so you might want to double check. But if you don't pick up on it, it's okay. You can always find it at the end. Okay, so I know that 1 and 270 is our factors of 270. 270 divided by 2 is 135. 270 divided by 3 is 90, which makes sense. Okay, 270 divided by 4 is a decimal. 270 divided by 5 is going to work, so it's 5 and 54. 270 divided by 6 is 45. 7 doesn't work. 8 doesn't work. 9 is 30, which we should have known already. 10 is going to work. It's 10 and 27. 270 divided by 11 is a decimal. and 15 and 18, which is probably the last pair. Yes. Okay, so we got them all. All right, now I know that 270 is positive, which means my signs have got to be the same, but the bottom number here is negative, so I need all of my numbers to be negative. And when I add together, I want negative 33. Excuse me. So let's see what we got. That's not going to work. That's negative 39. This is negative 37. So it should be 15 and 18. Okay, so negative 15 and negative 18. So now we go through and split the middle. So we have, keep the 9x squared. Then I have minus 15x, minus 18x, oops, and bring down your plus 30. Then group. Okay, the GCF of 9 and 15 is going to be 3, and they both have an x, so I'm going to keep the x as well. And when I divide, I'm going to get 3x minus 5. Over here, the GCF is going to be negative 6. My parentheses match, so I know I have the right GCF. So I'm going to get 3x minus 5 times 3x minus 6. Now I want you to take a look at these two sets of parentheses. I have 3 and I have 5. I have 3 and I have 6. So if you look at them separately, 3 and 5, the only common factor they have is 1, so that's not going to simplify. However, 3 and 6 have a common factor of 3. So that means I can actually take a 3 out from here, and that would have been the GCF from the very beginning. So I'm going to put the 3 at the beginning. This 3x minus 5 is not going to change. And then I'm going to divide here. So 3 divided by 3 is 1x. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. So you can find the GCF at the end if that makes you more comfortable. Just know that you'll probably have to deal with bigger numbers in your big X. But that's it. That's how you factor trinomials when A is not 1.